Hello, everybody. Today I'm not going to be reacting. I'm going to be talking about how epistemology and ethics are objective. And so we have to start with axioms. Axioms are things that are irreducible, they are things that cannot be reasoned toward. So some people, skeptics namely, will already say, well, you can't have axioms because where do they come from? Well, they are the building blocks that are taken as a given. And they are irreducible, is the point. So, what we are starting with is A is A. And the thing is what it is itself, as Aristotle said. This is the fundamental axiom of everything. A is A. So that means that everything has an identity. Everything is what it is. And this is also that there cannot be contradictions. The thing cannot be both what it is and what it isn't. A is A. So when we're talking about existence, well, what is existence? It is that which exists. If you don't think that existence exists, then you aren't accepting anything. You are just there is no point in even talking with you if you don't think existence exists. If you think that existence is that which it doesn't exist, well, you are already violating A is A. Whatever exists, that is existence. It is reality. Reality is all that is. So this is the foundational blocks. There is no way to reason towards these things. They are fundamentally given. They are the givens of discussion, of life, of everything. So if we talk about now how we derive what is true, well, of course, there are objects, and everything that is actually exists, right? Because A is A. So the grass exists, the mountain exists, I exist, my voice exists, all these things exist. How do we know it? Because our senses are valid. How do we know our senses are valid? Well, we know that our hearing hears things. We can verify this with other rational beings that hear things and verify. We know that we can see things. And how do we know? Well, the consequences of acting like we don't know is death. So the fundamental value of life is to live. Life is for living. So this is a value derived from an is, just right here. Well, what is life? It is that which lives. If you want to keep living, you need to know what to do. Right. Anyway, getting back to our senses, a lot of people would say that our senses are invalid. And they will usually argue that proof of our senses being invalid is, for instance, that we don't see everything. We can't hear everything, and essentially we can't know everything. Well, this is not the argument that the senses are valid. There are limits to what we can see and what we can hear and what we can touch and everything else. Just because there are limits does not mean that they are useless. For instance, my mind can grasp ideas in the same way my hand can grasp objects. Now, I do not grasp all knowledge possible in the universe. This is not to say that I don't understand some things. In the same way, my hand can grab an object, right? It can grab a phone and other things that fit in my hand. My hand cannot grab a mountain. Just because it cannot grab a mountain or grab the ocean or any large object does not mean that it cannot grab some things. So the fundamental argument that since our senses are limited, that means our knowledge is invalid is just simply false. In the same way, saying since your hand can't grab everything, it can't grab anything, right? So if you disagree with any of these things so far, I would like to know what. Because if you disagree with any of these things, then you do not believe that knowledge is possible. You do not believe that A is A. You do not believe that existence exists. And if that is true, then you will die very soon. But of course, you probably won't die because you do believe these things. Even if you don't acknowledge that you believe these things, you do. In the same sense, when you are crossing the street, you look to see if there are cars coming. And how do you know if cars are coming? Well, your senses are valid and things are what they are. The car is a car. It is moving at this speed, and you are you, a person. If the car is moving fast enough and you go in front of it, you will die. And you can know that the car is coming or not based on your senses, which give you objective truth about reality. Now, anybody debating this, again, I don't know what you're talking about. You're fundamentally a skeptic saying, oh, well, maybe actually we're all dead anyway. Anyway, it's just contradictions that lead nowhere. So getting to induction now, which is, I think, very related to the is-ought distinction, which I will get to at the end of this video. So induction is deriving the general from the particular, to use Aristotle's words, building up meaning, in other words. So David Hume, skeptic, famously said that it is invalid, that you can't know that this, just because the sun has always come up, you don't know that it will come up tomorrow. To say that it will not come up tomorrow is just as logically valid. Okay, logically valid. This is just using rationalism in a way. It's just using thought, and it is not using experience. And if we are using experience, we can justify it. So we can talk about what is the nature. I like to use the nature of a blueberry, right? I know what blueberries are. I have picked them. I have eaten them. I'm sure most of you have eaten them as well. So when July comes around here in Sweden, there will be blueberries everywhere in the forest. So can I know what a blueberry is? Can I know that this thing that I've had before that I've called a blueberry is still a blueberry? Well, Hume would say no. There's no logical reason to think so. Well, of course, there is a logical reason to think so, because a blueberry has an identity. The identity of a blueberry is what it is. To say that a blueberry is a blueberry and it is not a blueberry is against A is A. It is a contradiction. So I pick a blueberry and I eat it. Hume would say that I can't know that the next blueberry I eat will be, say, not poisonous, because just because everything that has been doesn't mean that it will be. Well, to say that what is won't continue being what it is a belief in mysticism. Like, what is going to happen to this blueberry? What are going to happen to blueberries in general? Nothing. They're going to continue being blueberries is my answer. So in this way, the blueberry is this thing, and it will be this thing as well. And to believe otherwise is to believe in some mystical thing, right? It's to believe that something that the identity of everything will change. So this is to not accept A as A. This is not to accept the law of identity. If you accept A as A, you accept that the blueberry that is now, that was the blueberry that was before, and will be the blueberry next year as well. So when we talk about is ought, we talked about, so to use the blueberry thing, it is a blueberry and it ought to be a blueberry next year. It will be, it should be, in other words. This is a fact. To say, but for instance, we're talking about values. That's usually what the is-ought fallacy er, I say the is-ought fallacy because I believe it is a false distinction, a false dichotomy, which is a fallacy in itself. But I haven't established that yet. So when we talk about values, for instance, what is, non-living things don't have values. They don't need it. A rock doesn't need values. A blueberry doesn't need values to survive. It is. So when we talk about what people ought to do, before we can talk about what they ought to do, we have to talk about what a person is. Because we have to everything has an identity, and we have to identify it. Before we do that, we can talk about identification and what it takes. It takes effort, right? It takes reason. It takes a conscious being rational to identify things. And not only to identify in this sense, but so other animals, they are conscious and they identify things. This is how the deer knows that to eat grass and not to eat rocks. It doesn't have to try every rock before it knows that it's not edible. They know what rocks are and they know what grass is because of simple abstractions. And this is quite a tough thing to explain. But let's jump to humans. And this is what we do as well. We identify specific examples or concretes. We identify specific examples of things and we abstract into concepts. Concepts are groupings of like things into classes. So for instance, I know what a human is. When I see a new person, I know that it's a person or a human without having to meet them first. How do I know this? Well, because of concepts. A concept is a grouping of things based on their characteristics, or rather, how everything else is differentiated from this class of a thing. So I know what a person is. I know what a glass of water is. I know what a computer is. And it's not like I have to know what, or it's not like I have to have seen all computers. And I know that computers can be big or small. The size of them really doesn't matter. It's more about their characteristics, right? They need essential characteristics of the thing. So getting back to what is man? Well, what is the differentiating factor or the essential characteristics about what a person is? So a person is an animal, but there are lots of animals. So that doesn't make us special. People are social. Lots of animals are social as well. So that also doesn't differentiate us completely. Humans are rational. This maybe is the differentiating factor. But I would go a step further in the sense of not only are humans rational, but they also recognize the rational capacity in all other humans, because what humans are is, if they are rational and we have concepts, and these concepts are grouping like things into classes. So what applies to what one characteristic, what one unit, one thing within the concept, within the class has as a characteristic, all the members of this class have as characteristics as well. So all humans have rationality in the sense that they pursue their own self-interest. So it might be that other animals understand this a bit, right? That they pursue their own self-interests, but they definitely don't agree with other members of their species or of their class to do things. Agreement requires language, essentially. So we need words, we need consciousness, and then once we get consciousness and words and rationality, then we can come to agreements on things. We can talk about things outside the moment. And this would be contractual, right? We can contract with other people. We can agree to do things. So I would say that as the fundamental differentiating characteristic between a human and all other animals, is that they are the contractual animal. They are contractual, meaning they use rationality, they recognize rationality in others, and they know that rationality means acting in their own self-interest. So when you interact with other people, you know you are acting in your own self-interest, and the other people are as well when they're acting rationally. To act irrationally would be to act in a harmful manner. Of course, people do act in harmful manners, but not in the larger sense. Um, in general, of course, if you do act irrationally completely, you will die. Um, it will be harmful. So already we have talked about values, actually. So what what do we value? We value living. If you don't value living, this is the given of humans, right? This is the given value. If you don't value living, then why are you living? Of course, you do value living if you are living. So, since I am a contractual being, I value living. Well, now I can derive is from oughts if we must use this. So, what I am? I am a living being. Well, if I want to continue living, then I ought to act rationally. I ought to do many things. For instance, let's say there's a blizzard outside. What is? I have to analyze, I have to identify. I know me as a human cannot withstand the freezing temperatures for too long. I will die. So, if it is freezing temperatures and I am planning on going on a long hike, uh, if I want to keep living, right? That is the standard value of my life, is that I want to keep living. I know that I need to do certain things, or rather, I ought to do these things. Not that I ought to, but that I need to if I am to honor the fundamental value of my life, of what is. I need to have warm clothes. If I don't have warm clothes, I will die. So the is implies the ought exactly. If you value life. And the argument is that because you are living, because you continue to live, you do value life. So therefore, the ought of what you should do comes from the is. So yeah, this that's the whole argument, basically, of objective reality, objectively what we are, how to act, and how the value of these things is derived from what is. I know this won't be satisfactory to everybody, but what would be is the point. If you are a skeptic, there is nothing satisfactory to you. For instance, you shouldn't even argue with me, because how do you know that I've even said what I've said? If everything is just to be interpreted as possibly anything else. So this is what this channel is for. This is what I'm doing. I am describing things, understanding the axiom of A is A. The thing is what it is itself. If you understand A is A, you will arrive in the same conclusions I did there. Of course, there is a lot of debates within specific things, but there is no debate about whether existence exists, whether you are actually conscious, and if you are conscious of things, you can't be conscious without things. And then the values of things, though, are also, they're relational in a way. Like grass does not have a value in and of itself, whatever that might mean. Like grass has a value to me. I am the conscious living thing that gives value to things. So the grass on its own, without any conscious thing to identify it and interact with it, would have no value at all. And of course, it has different values to different things. Some people think grass is beautiful. Other people think it's something to be avoided. For instance, people that are allergic to it. This does not mean that the grass has an intrinsic value to it. It is the people that give the value. And how are the values given? To continue living. This is the standard for everything. So I hope you enjoyed me actually thinking today. If you think I was thinking badly, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.